Welcome. In this video, we'll be exploring the world of Agile documentation. We will focus on right-sizing documentation for Agile teams. Let's get started. Let's understand what Agile documentation is all about. It revolves around a few core principles, that is just enough and just-in-time documentation. This means creating documentation only when it's needed and with sufficient detail. Agile documentation is value-driven over comprehensive. It prioritizes documentation that directly contributes value to the project, avoiding excessive or unnecessary details. Agile documentation should be living documents over static artifacts. This means that documentation should be continuously updated and adapted to reflect changes in the project. Agile documentation is more about collaboration over handoffs. It emphasizes teamwork and shared responsibility in creating and maintaining documentation, rather than passing it off to a single person or team. And lastly, Agile documentation is about continuous evolution. It embraces the idea that documentation will evolve throughout the project, as new information becomes available and requirements change. Here's a comparison between traditional and Agile documentation. Traditional documentation usually involves comprehensive documentation upfront, documenting everything just in case, fixed detailed requirements, heavy sign-off procedures, and often creates what's called documentation debt. On the other hand, Agile documentation is lightweight and focused, documenting only what adds value, evolves with the product, emphasizes collaboration over formality, and aims to be self-documenting wherever possible. Let's talk about right-sizing documentation. Right-sizing documentation has some key principles, that is to document with a clear purpose, considering the audience in mind, focusing on essential information, regularly revisiting and refining, and understanding that documentation is a team responsibility. Documentation is categorized into essential, supporting, and comprehensive. Essential documentation is always needed, while supporting documentation is context-dependent, and comprehensive documentation is needed only when required. Let's explore some essential documentation types. The first one is user stories. User stories have clear acceptance criteria, are short, focused narratives, visible to the entire team, and regularly refined. Next is technical documentation. Technical documentation involves architecture decisions, application programming interface documentation, code comments, and system interactions. And lastly, support documentation. Support documentation includes user manuals, frequently asked questions and guides, troubleshooting, and knowledge base. Now let's explore some lean documentation practices. It emphasizes a single source of truth, automation wherever possible, integration with development, accessibility to all stakeholders, and version control alongside code. Here's an example of self-documenting code written in Python. It has a well-defined function to calculate sprint velocity with a detailed explanation in the comments. The arguments and the return values are also clearly described. Here are some documentation tools for Agile teams. The first is wiki systems. Wiki systems are collaborative documentation platforms that allow teams to create, organize, and share knowledge. Then there are issue trackers. Issue trackers combine documentation with tracking features, linking requirements directly to implementation tasks. Then there is Markdown docs. Markdown docs use lightweight text formatting that integrates with version control systems for simple maintainable docs. Then there are automated docs. Automated docs are tools that generate documentation from code comments and annotations, keeping docs and code in sync. Then there are visual tools. Visual tools include diagramming and visualization tools that create architecture diagrams, flowcharts, and user flows. And lastly, there are collaboration applications. Collaboration applications are real-time collaboration tools that facilitate documentation creation and sharing among team members. Let's take a look at the documentation lifecycle in Agile. It starts with a plan to identify what documentation is needed, then creating concise, focused content, reviewing accuracy with the team, publishing to make accessible to stakeholders, using in daily work, gathering feedback from users, updating based on changes, and archiving, retaining, or removing as needed. The core of this cycle is a living documentation, continuously evolving throughout the project lifecycle. Let's understand how to measure the value of documentation. Key metrics include the time spent searching for information, the frequency of knowledge transfer sessions, the onboarding time for new team members, support ticket reduction, and documentation usage analytics. Good documentation can significantly improve return on investment by increasing developer productivity through reducing context switching, faster decision-making through clear architectural guidance, reduced knowledge silos and single points of failure, smoother transitions between team members, fewer defects from misunderstood requirements, and improved stakeholder communication and alignment. Here is a sample chart that depicts the decrease in the support tickets, onboarding time, knowledge gaps, and technical debts as a result of well-written documentation. Here are the key takeaways from this video. Documentation should be lean and purposeful, not comprehensive for its own sake. The focus should be on documenting decisions, not discussions. Treat documentation as a product that evolves with user feedback and changing needs. Scheduling regular reviews of documentation. Automate documentation where possible to keep it synchronized with code, integrating documentation into continuous integration and continuous delivery pipelines. And remember that documentation is a team responsibility, not just a task for technical writers, and include documentation in the definition of done. So remember, the goal is not to document everything, but to document just enough to enable teams to work efficiently and effectively. If you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Visit codelucky.com for more such useful content.